Welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to crack a really fascinating code, Eysenck's personality code. It's this amazing theory that tries to map out what makes us tick, right down to our biology. All right, so let's just dive right in with the question I think we've all asked ourselves at some point. Why are we all so different? I mean, really, what makes some of us just crave being in a crowd, while others would do anything for a quiet night in? It's one of the biggest questions about who we are.
Okay, so to even begin to answer that, we've got to look at the very foundation. I mean, think about it. How on earth do you create a scientific map for something as messy and personal as our own personality?
You know how it is, right? You meet someone new, and within just a few minutes, you get a vibe, a snap judgment. But what if those gut feelings aren't just random guesses? What if they're actually picking up on something deeper, something fundamental, and maybe even measurable? Well, that's exactly what psychologist Hans Eysenck believed. He looked at this huge, complex puzzle of human nature and thought, you know what? Instead of getting lost in a million different traits, what if we could boil it all down to just a few core dimensions? And here's the kicker. He thought they were based on our biology.
So the big question is, how did he do it? How did he actually map out this personality landscape? Well, his research pointed him to three huge core dimensions. Think of them as the main roads on his map. First up is probably the most famous one, the one we all talk about, extroversion versus introversion. And this is so much more than just being chatty or quiet. It's really about where you get your energy from. Does the outside world charge you up, or do your own thoughts?
And what's so cool about this is the why behind it. Eysenck had a theory that it's all about our brain's natural arousal level. See, he thought extroverts have a lower baseline level of, let's call it brain energy, so they go out looking for excitement to bring that level up. Introverts, they're the opposite. Their baseline is already high, so big crowds and loud noises can actually feel overwhelming. This example with Ravi and Arjun just nails it, right? Imagine Ravi at a party. He's in his element, his battery is charging up to full. But his roommate Arjun, in the exact same situation, feels his battery draining down to zero. It's not about one way being better, it's just about their fundamental wiring being totally different. Okay, on to the second core dimension, neuroticism. The best way to think about this one is like an emotional thermostat. It's all about how sensitive your system is, and it runs on a scale from being really emotionally reactive to being incredibly stable. And you can really see how this plays out in day-to-day life. Let's say you crack your phone screen. For someone high in neuroticism, their internal alarm bells might go off. It feels like a total disaster. But someone on the other end, someone with high emotional stability, they'd probably just sigh and start looking up repair shops. Same problem, totally different reaction. And the student example with Priya and Vikram, I think we've all known people like this, or maybe we are one of them. For Priya, that upcoming exam feels like a huge threat, so her nervous system just goes into overdrive. Vikram, on the other hand, can see the same exam as a challenge to be met, so he can stay calm and focused. All right, now for the third and final dimension. And okay, let's just get this out of the way. The name Psychoticism sounds pretty intense, right? But it's not about what you think. It's not about mental illness. A better way to think of it is a spectrum from tough-minded to tender-minded. It's really about how you relate to social rules and other people's feelings. So this dimension really helps explain why some people are just natural rule breakers. They question authority, they can be impulsive, maybe a little cold. That's high on the scale. On the low end, you have people who are really focused on empathy, on getting along, on social harmony. They're the ones who work to keep the peace and follow the rules. But here's the thing. This is what made Eysenck's theory a real game changer. He didn't just stop at describing these traits and saying, there you go. No, he was obsessed with finding their roots in our biology. He was basically saying our personality is partly written into our brain's blueprint from the start. And he got really specific about it, which is so cool. He suggested that extroversion is tied to a part of the brainstem called the reticular activating system. Think of it as the brain's volume knob for attention. He linked neuroticism to how sensitive our limbic system is. That's the emotional powerhouse of the brain. And he even thought psychoticism could be related to hormones like testosterone. It was this incredible attempt to build a bridge directly from our personality to our brain. Okay, so we've got the theory, we've got the biology, which is all fascinating. But what's the point? How does this actually show up in real life? Let's take a look. And this is really where the rubber meets the road. I mean, think about it. In psychology, if you know a client's level of neuroticism, you can tailor their therapy. In a classroom, it helps teachers make sure both the kid who needs to talk it out and the kid who needs to think it through can learn well. And in the workplace, it's huge for building teams that actually work together.
Now, of course, no theory is perfect, and Eysenck's model has its limitations. Some experts argue that boiling everything down to just 3 dimensions is, well, a bit too simple. Others correctly point out that culture plays a huge role in how these traits show up. And then there's that classic debate: how much of us is biology and how much is our life story?
So, all of this brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of our discussion today. What does this all mean for you? How can you use this to understand yourself a little better?
At the end of the day, here's the biggest takeaway. Eysenck's model isn't supposed to be a set of rigid boxes to stuff yourself into. It's not your destiny. Think of it more like a map, a guide to help you understand your own natural landscape, your tendencies. It's a starting point, not a life sentence.
And that really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If you know your own blueprint, if you know you're a natural introvert or that your emotional system is just wired to be more sensitive, how can you use that knowledge? How can it empower you? Because by understanding our own wiring, we can stop fighting against ourselves and start building a life that truly, genuinely fits.